Here's one thing that will help you in an argument with your significant other. Let me rephrase that. This will actually help you in an argument with just about anyone. Okay, let's start with some backstory. The first thing is first. We are emotional creatures. If you look at the way that the brain develops, the first thing that develops in the womb is the emotional, instinctual side of the brain. The logical side of the brain doesn't develop until about age 25, well into your 30s if you have ADHD, depending on the severity. Just know that we are emotional creatures. In fact, I was having not an argument. It wasn't an argument. I was just having this discussion with an engineer who was trying to convince me that he doesn't make emotional decisions. He's like, no, I'm very logical. I'm an engineer. That's how I think. And we went down that rabbit hole, and I led him to the water. I didn't tell him he was wrong. I just asked questions, guiding questions, until he realized, holy cow, a lot of my decisions in life are based on emotion. It's like, yes. And I made another video about this. The advertisement companies know this. That's why they try and sell you a feeling, not a product. If they can get you to want to feel a certain way, which they play on your basic instincts of wanting happiness and closeness and acceptance, if they can get you to want that and believe that it's going to be in this product, you're going to buy it. Unless you understand this concept that we are emotional creatures, and 95% of our behaviors come from a subconscious part of the brain. It's habitual, and a very subconscious part of the brain is that emotional, instinctual side. So, with that being said, what does this have to do with arguing? What does this have to do with fighting with my spouse or my boyfriend, girlfriend, my significant other? Okay, the truth is we all need space to vent, because with emotion, in the best way that I can, the way that my brain works, I look at emotion as energy in motion. When an emotion is provoked within you, that energy has to go somewhere, wherever it goes. And this is why we cry. This is why we fight. This is why we yell. This is because the emotion has to go somewhere. And by the way, that's why exercise is really good for you, because you can burn a lot of that energy off. However, we all need emotional space. We need a place to be emotional. So what does that mean, right? Next time you're in an argument, understand this. There is a big difference between logic and emotion. Think about it this way. It's like Spanish and English. They're based, the root language, right? Whatever that is. I don't know what it is. Latin, I don't know. Whatever the root is for those, right? You say one or uno or quad, cuatro, right? Quad is four, right? So they're similar, but they are different. And so with that being said, that's the same with emotion and logic. And then when you're in an argument, there are two things to define, to identify. The first one is, am I speaking out of emotion or logic? Is my partner speaking out of emotion or logic? Because if they're having an emotional conversation and you're having a logical conversation, you guys are you're not gonna meet up. It's just not gonna happen, right? Because let's say they come at you, I feel this way, I feel that way, I feel this way. You're gonna have all these logical, well, that's not true because X, Y, and Z. That's not true because we did this, and that's not true. And then so what you're doing when you're trying to argue their emotion with logic is two things. You're shutting them down and invalidating their emotions. And then what that does is, the second thing is, it causes a separation. It causes a separation between you. And what I I consider that intimacy. Okay, a lot of people think, well, when's the last time you were intimate? It's like, well, every single day you're intimate with someone. And that's not a sexual phrase. That is intimacy. I'm being vulnerable. I'm being open. I'm being honest. I'm being emotional. I'm showing this to you. That's a form of intimacy. And then what happens is that someone tries to shut that down with logic. And it means that you don't matter to me. And that's not what the logical person's saying, but that's how the emotional person's taking it. You don't matter to me enough to try and see your point of view. I don't see it from your point of view. Your emotions don't mean anything. Fill in that blank, and that's shutting it down. So here's the tip. Okay, here's the trick that you do. You have to create a space for this person when they're being emotional, and you need to just stop talking and allow them to be emotional. My favorite scene from the movie The Matrix is at the very end, with all the agents are shooting at him, and he just says, stop. And then all the bullets stop. And they realize they have no power over him. That's how we need to be in these situations, as all this emotional, because many times the emotion that's coming at us, many times it'll be directed at us. And so what do? We go in defensive mode, which is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of a relationship. By the way, I'm hitting stuff over here. Defensiveness, because what defensiveness does is it closes down the channel for understanding, trying to see it from that person's point of view, trying to understand their emotion, right? Then you become defensive. Well, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to shut it down with logic. I'm going to close down this intimate vulnerability that we have going on here, and then now we're separate. And I'll make another video on the 4 horsemen of that destroy relationships. But for now, just know that defensiveness is one of them. And so what you need to do, go back to the whole Matrix analogy, is you need to be Neo. You need to allow those bullets to come at you. You don't necessarily have to take it all personally. You don't necessarily have to take it and say something's wrong with me and now I have to change and now I'm depressed. But just listen. Don't let it all just overwhelm you and hit you. But listen. Trying to understand what they're saying. One of my first videos was why women nag. And the truth is, men and women nag. It's true, because nagging not always, but many times comes from an emotional standpoint. This is how I feel. You don't care about me. You never think about me. You don't buy me gifts. You don't, whatever it is. You don't do this. You don't do that. Even if you do, there's a good chance that in that moment, that's how they're feeling, and they're generalizing it out into the rest of the relationship they've had with you. And that's why it's so important. That's why it's so important to understand that they need a space to be emotional. They need a space. You let them be emotional. Let them say whatever they need to say, as long as they're not like, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill myself. If that's happening, you need to call the authorities. But if whatever they're saying, let them be emotional, right? And then what that's going to do is, when you validate their emotions, yeah, I see why you feel that way. I'm sorry that you feel that way. That's horrible. Apologize for things that you've done wrong. Try not to be defensive. Try to get your ego out of the way. Try and see it from their point of view. Now imagine, I don't know what this would actually look like. I just thought of this while I'm making this video. What would it look like if both partners were able to do this during an argument? Would it just go completely wrong, and before you know, you're both like, well, now what do I get it too. Maybe it would go completely right, and they would be like, thank you for understanding. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being there for me. I know that I'm not being logical. Sometimes my wife says that to me. I know I'm not being logical. The other night she was angry at me. I was thinking logically. She was hangry. I guess that's an emotion, right? And she knew it. She knew it. Nothing I did was good enough. Nothing I suggested was good enough. I knew it. I saw it coming. But instead of, I kind of argue back a little bit, because here's the thing. It's about practice. You got to practice this stuff. And I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. That's just, we're all human, right? And if you're not, show us your wings and halo. That's cool. Or your horns. Hopefully not. Anyways, but the point being is that I am also on this journey, this human experience where I'm going to make mistakes too. But she knew she was being illogical. She was more in the emotion. I knew she was being illogical. She was more in the emotion. And it made it so much easier. Instead of trying to do, well, then what do you want? I don't understand what you want. Why aren't you, fill in the blank? I wasn't getting angry like that because I was like, all right, she's, The hardest thing I think to do in these situations is to control our own emotions, because we do want to defend ourselves and we do want to replace their illogical argument with our logic, but that's going to shut them down. It's not going to make any sense. If you let it ride out, if you give them that space, if you take the shots, if you, give them room to be emotional, and they understand this concept too, or maybe if they don't, but there's a good chance they're going to come back and say, I'm sorry. I was being illogical. I just, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, that's like your emotions. That's like a flooding, right? Flooding with emotions. So that's my spiel. That's my spiel on logic versus emotion. Try this the next time you're arguing. You can do this with coworkers, employees. You can do this with your boss. You can do this. Kids are typically more emotional because that logical side of the brain is like very underdeveloped. You can do this with just about anyone. In fact, I've been in a lot of debates in my life, and I understand the idea that if you challenge someone's viewpoint, many times that viewpoint is a belief that is connected to their identity. So you're not just saying, hey, this isn't a logical belief. You're saying, hey, your identity is wrong. And then they'll come at you emotionally. I've been in many debates where I'm being yelled at, I'm being sworn at, and I keep a calm because I understand it. It's like, okay, right, I get what you're feeling right now, but just listen to what I'm saying as well. I don't know if that needs to be in there or not. Whatever. Anyways, please let me know if you have any questions or comments or concerns. Leave them in the comment section. Where else would you put them? Well, that's funny that you ask, because I do have an email in the description. We do have a website in the description. Please hit that like button. Get that algorithm going for me. I'd appreciate it. Until next time, my friends. Until next time.